Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of Hiring and Inspiring. Today's guest is Darcy O'Rourke. Darcy's a recent connection of mine, connected on LinkedIn fairly recently. He's a chap with a strong financial background, has worked in the world of sales, and now has sort of combined the two to run his own business. So he's worn a few hats and has plenty of expertise, I think, to share with me today. So I'm looking forward to having a chat with Darcy today, find out kind of where and how he's got to where he has today in his career, find out what the sort of steps that are sort of have taken place to lead him to sort of run his own business, which we'll find out a bit more about shortly, and to sort of dig into his financial expertise and maybe give me and any listeners some advice as well. So, Darcy, with that introduction, mate, welcome to the show. How are you getting on?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Joe. Yeah, really keen to catch up today and have a good chat. And yeah, I'll try to weave some nuggets in here that people can take away, and yeah, get some good value out of it.
Sounds good, man. So let's start a little bit in the present. So a year or so back, maybe a year and a half ago, I believe you started your own business,
Mhm.
Bowl on wealth management. So to tell me a bit about that business, sort of what is the purpose of that business? What are you actually doing in that role, setting up your own company?
Yeah, so I started the business about a year and a half ago, something like that. There's technically two businesses, so I've got both a financial planning and mortgage broking business. They're just separate companies just because of how everything's licensed and how that's all organized. But the purpose is really to help salespeople make sure they're not just earning a high income, they actually become wealthy. So it's one of those things I noticed, as you sort of alluded to at the start of this conversation. I do have experience in both financial planning and in sales. So I worked in tech sales for about 3 years. And one of the things that I saw is a lot of people in the industry were making really good money, but weren't necessarily making the right choices to actually grow their wealth and get ahead long term. And when you're working in sales, you're working very hard. It's a difficult job, high stress. You're putting in all this time and energy. Earning good money is kind of one part of it. If you're not actually using that to get ahead,
Hmm.
why are you doing it? Like you kind of,
Hmm.
you want to actually get ahead. So I noticed this disconnect, and yeah, wanted to address that. So that's really the purpose of the business, is helping salespeople get on top of this stuff and get ahead financially.
And how's it been going? For you, how have you found it since you kicked it off a year and a half ago?
Yeah, everyone always says that starting your own business is hard, or it's so much harder than working a job as an employee. And I think I kind of underestimated how difficult it can be working for yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's like a little bit of arrogance or something or what it is, but it's definitely hard. Like you've got to wear so many hats. Um, when you're working for yourself, there's just so many different things you've got to do. Like in financial planning and in the mortgage broking side of things, there is a strong element of sales. Like it's all about relationships and getting to know people and helping people and understanding what they want to achieve.
Mm.
But there's also hours and hours of paperwork and number crunching and all that kind of thing. And then there's the marketing side of it as well. So I guess wearing all of those hats has been
Yeah.
a bit of a challenge, but it has been really rewarding. Like being able to market the business the way I want to, and help people the way I want to, has been great. And one of the sort of funny things starting the business, like the plan always was to work with sales professionals. When I first started the business, I kind of marketed it towards professionals in general because I was like, oh, I don't want to alienate people, and the business is new. If I say sales
Yeah.
professionals, I won't get any business. Like
Yeah.
I was kind of freaking out and sort of tried to ease my way into it. And yeah, I realized that was silly at a certain point, and I was like, I need to go all in. The purpose is looking after salespeople. I
Yeah.
need to properly market it towards salespeople and just go full steam ahead. And yeah, since I've done that, the response has been really good. Like, I don't think there's anyone else in Australia that's really working with salespeople
Yeah.
specifically. So yeah, it's resonating with people, and yeah, going really well.
Yeah, I really like and that's what definitely caught my eye when we first connect. That niche you have sort of found to help salespeople. Yeah, I think your tagline was, I can't remember exactly what it was, around making their commission go further or something, or doing more with their commission.
Yeah.
What if someone's listening, right, and if a salesperson's listening to this, and it's maybe something that's on their radar, maybe I could be making smarter the decisions with the commission I make and investing, but not quite sure how to do it. How would you sort of sit down and help them? What's the sort of the service that you do provide?
Yeah, so I like to provide a holistic service, looking at everything overall, even outside of financial advisors that don't focus on salespeople. A lot of financial advisors in general, it can be a bit transactional sometimes, and I didn't really like that way of doing things. Um, so the way I like to look at it is there's kind of three elements to how I help people. There's the financial advice, there's the mortgage broking, but then overarching all of that, there's like an element of education and coaching. So I like to use the analogy of like cold calling, right?
Okay.
So if you were to get a brand new person to sales and say, hey, we need you to book in this meeting, let's make a phone call. You've got sort of one option where you just give them a script and send them on their way, which is kind of traditional financial planning. Like you'll get your statement of advice and you're sort of on your way kind of thing. The other option would be to coach them, to do some practice calls, to help them understand why it's important to ask certain questions, that kind of thing. So really helping them understand how to use the script and how to have that good conversation. That's going to lead to a much higher likelihood of success. So I've kind of brought that same thing into my model and what I do. And there's a lot of coaching that goes along with the advice. So it might be like a 10 meeting process where there'll be small little meetings to help you get your head around these different concepts with finance and make sure you're actually implementing it and actually being successful, instead of me just sort of giving you a plan. Off you go, you figure it out yourself kind of thing. There's that level of accountability and working through things together and making sure people understand all these different aspects of finance. Because it probably took me a couple of years to really understand even just the basics well, working in the industry. So, for clients to expect them to sort of sit down in one or two meetings and understand it all and be successful,
Yeah.
it's pretty tricky.
Yeah. I like how collaborative it is. It's not you just, as you say, here's what I do, off you go. You're working together, right? And
Yeah.
you're sort of, it's not just one hit and, as you say, figure it out. I'm going to help you in this long-term thing. Have you got any, maybe, to go through specifics, but any like success stories of maybe a salesperson that's come to you, or you've reached out to them and you've started working together and they've really had some results, based off, from you guys working together, that you could share?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Probably the biggest one that pops to mind is I had a client that purchased a property probably 7 years ago, something like that, and saw some really good capital growth. So he'd actually built up a decent amount of equity in the property. Like he was making just the standard repayments, but the value of the property had risen quite a bit, which means that there was actually equity available for him to refinance and get cash out of that property. So he's a pretty high growth investor, pretty keen to make some moves to grow his wealth long term. So he was really keen on the idea of investing in some properties. So we went down that path. So unlocked about $250,000 of equity in his primary residence. And then he purchased 2 investment properties just around the country, so diversified on that side of things, so it's not all in the one area with his properties. Then as well, there's some other key stuff that we sorted out for him as well. So we sorted out his superannuation, so he wasn't actually that aggressive the way he was investing in his superannuation. So we increased the risk there. With a higher risk comes high volatility, so more ups and downs. But over the long term, you're going to get a better return. So we increased that risk there for him. And he was like pretty into like tech and having like dashboards and things like that. So the super fund that we've set him up through, as well as sort of having that more aggressive option and some good tax benefits, also lets him actually pull through data from, I think it's from domain.com.au, that pulls through like rough valuations for his properties. So you can now see his superannuation, all those properties, all in that one space. And another thing that he's wanting to do, we haven't got to it yet, is start investing in shares as well. And once he does that, he can see that all in that one portal. So he's like very sort of tech focused and wanting to have all of that visibility over everything. So yeah, that's probably the first one that springs to mind. Some great results there for him.
That's obviously a really, really great story and a really good success, and I'm sure super rewarding for you. And that's sort of why you do it. I imagine there have been moments where it hasn't all been roses, and there's been challenging, times running since you started your own thing. Any moments that maybe stand out where you go, oh, yeah, this is really tough, or why did I do this? Where you sort of question things, and where it's since you launched it, where you've sort of, it's been a real struggle. Let's say.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that the two areas where it's been the most challenging is probably on the broking side of it, taking on prospects that I probably shouldn't. That with the way that you're paid with mortgage broking, typically is some people will charge a fee. A lot of people will just take a commission. So you get a commission from the loan once the loan's all
Yeah.
set up and all settled. Some people will do a combination of the both. So I probably took on some potential loans that I shouldn't have, that had a really low chance of going ahead, and I put in quite a bit of work for them, and it was more of me just wanting to help people and try to push through these difficult scenarios that I probably shouldn't have taken on. And then sometimes as well, you'll find with these loan scenarios, people won't be completely honest with you. They'll kind of go, "Oh, like I don't have this credit card, or I don't have this, or I don't have that." And then once you go through and you start digging through everything, you sort of see this and you're like, "Wow, it was borderline already. Now that you've got these two extra credit cards you didn't tell me about, we can't get this loan." So on the broking side of it, that's probably been the main challenge.
Yeah.
It's probably taking on some of the wrong people. That aren't really in a position to get that finance there. Then on the financial planning side of it, this has always been the trickiest part is insurance. So some of the insurance conversations are pretty tough. So when you one of the key parts of financial planning is having a backup plan, managing risk, and one of the ways that that's done is through insurance. So things like life insurance, income protection insurance, that kind of thing. So for instance, if you've got a family and you've got some debt, you probably want to have some life insurance to cover off that debt. So if you were to pass away, that would be repaid and your family would be looked after, for example. Now, with life insurance in Australia, it's one of those things, it's one of those industries where they can actually legally discriminate against you. So you have to go through a full health questionnaire. They'll look at your health history. They'll request reports from doctors. They'll basically dig deep to try to find out what your health is like. And if you've got health issues, they can actually exclude those specific issues from the cover. So if you've got income protection insurance and you have a back issue, they'll actually set up that policy with a back exclusion. So if your back gets worse and you can't work, the policy won't pay out. So having those conversations around insurance has been difficult and always is difficult. I feel like it's always going to be difficult. I guess the best way to deal with it is just to have that good connection with the clients, and make sure they understand that you're working for them, you're looking after them, and you've kind of got to play the insurance company's game and do things the way they say, and there's not really any other way around it, unfortunately.
Yeah. With the clients you mentioned there, how have you found the sort of the appetite from salespeople to work with you, and how easy has it been to win clients and win business? I know you were talking about before, ramping up your marketing activities, I guess, to help with maybe inbound inquiries.
Yeah.
How has it sort of been received, and how are you sort of finding the sort of volume of clients for the business?
Yeah, so since I've ramped up the marketing activity, it's been really good. Like I've had people reach out to me. I've also been doing outbound as well, like messaging people and reaching out to them, that kind of thing, just to sort of provide them like education and get them to understand who I am and what I'm about. And yeah, it's been received really well. It's funny, like, working with salespeople, like they know that you're selling as well, and they kind of, will respect it and everything. And one of the things I do like about selling to salespeople is if they're not interested and if they have an objection, they'll sort of let you know. Like I've had people sort of respond to me going, "Hey mate, like my wife's a financial advisor. She's been doing it 15 years. Don't waste time chasing me up," kind of thing. Like, yeah, cool. That's better than me chasing you up. So
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah. I think we spoke about this the other day as well. it's obviously more enjoyable sometimes dealing with a salesperson, a bit more of a laugh
Yep.
than maybe some other clients. Is that why you sort of tailored it to, or you're tailored it to salespeople?
Yeah, I mean that's a big part of it. Like originally when I So I'll sort of jump back in time a bit. So I worked in financial planning for about 7 years before I then worked in sales. I actually had clients that worked in sales back then, and that's sort of how I learned about software sales and what the lifestyle's like and what kind of work you're doing and everything. And they were just some of my favorite clients to work with.
Yeah,
Like just yeah, like you're saying, a bit of a laugh. It's a bit more of a fun conversation. I prefer to be dealing with people like that than some other people. Obviously, with my clients, a lot of them are couples, so it's not like in a couple everyone always works in sales. It's probably a bit uncommon actually. So I'll still be working with people outside of sales. If their partner doesn't work in sales, that's no dramas. But yeah, that was kind of part of the motivation to work with salespeople. But another part was really just that need there, like the fact that salespeople are working so hard to build that income, but don't really have anyone there. And yeah, looking across the market, I couldn't really see any advisors that specialize in salespeople in Australia. There's a few in the US, and I guess as well that's probably kind of helped me prove the concept before I focus on the niche. The fact that in the US there's these advisors that do specifically work with salespeople and they've been really successful. I'm kind of not just sort of going, I'll give this niche a go and it's unproven kind of thing. So yeah, it was the motivation to work with salespeople was partially because it'll be fun. Like I want to deal with salespeople day to day compared
yeah,
to doctors or something like that. And then the need and the fact that there's no one really doing it. So
yeah.
yeah,
And did that idea just sort of come into your head one day, or was it something you've always had, and it sort of was evolving, and then and how much did it take to sort of actually quit your day job and launch your own thing? So I can imagine that wasn't easy.
yeah, yeah. So it was kind of always one of those things that it had just been building and building in the back of my head. That I knew this was a good option. That I knew this is what I wanted to do. And I don't know. I feel like you kind of have these little things holding you back,
Mm.
and you kind of need to just commit to it. And yeah, one of the people that's helped me, just commit and take the plunge to focus on the niche. It's an advisor coach. Her name's Adele Martin. So if anyone sort of, I don't know if any advisors are listening to this, they can look her up. She's really successful. Had her niche that she focused on, and now helps advisors. So she sort of helped me just commit and take the plunge kind of thing. But yeah, it's always been, I'd say, probably even partway through my first sales job, it was in the back of my mind: do I go back into advice? This need is here. Do I focus on
Yeah,
salespeople? And it kind of built and built.
and it's just I've just got to do it. Just got to a point where there's never like the perfect time, right? You just got to make the
Yeah,
jump.
yeah, exactly. So I started the mortgage broking side of things first because that was a bit quicker to get started.
Sure.
The financial planning side of it, that probably took me, I don't know, like it was probably 6 to 8 months after I started, maybe even longer after I started the mortgage broking,
Yeah.
just because of all of the qualifications and exams and compliance stuff. There's a massive the compliance burden on that side of it is a lot bigger. Um, so yeah, so I just had to take my time to get through all of that and tick the boxes and yeah, good to go kind of thing.
Mate, I want to pick up on a couple of posts that you've done recently, which did actually catch my eye, and sort of pick your brains on them. One of them was quite recent. I think it was the other day. You posted about how I think in Australia the word sales can be a bit of a dirty word, maybe compared to other countries. What did you mean by that one?
Yeah, I've just actually remembered, Joe, before I jump into that question, I was supposed to do a little compliance note before we jumped into it. So just to let everyone know, I'm an authorised representative of Lifespan Financial Planning. The AFSL is 229892. And everything we're discussing, obviously, is general information only, not personal advice. So I recommend you consult with an advisor before making any financial or investment decisions. But jumping back onto that question, what did I mean the other day when I said sales is a dirty word in Australia? I think it's just the attitude towards sales, the way some people sort of look at the industry and how it's really perceived. One of the ways that I really saw it stand out to me has been in financial planning. Like there is a strong element of sales in financial planning. It's all about relationships. It's all about helping people, understanding their needs, and building a solution towards it, which is like most sales jobs nowadays, right? And yeah, one of the key areas that I noticed this sort of attitude around sales, sort of being like a negative industry, was with the Banking and Financial Services Royal Commission. So I'm not sure, how long have you been in Australia for?
6.5 years.
6.5 years. So that was probably happening while you were here, the Banking Royal Commission.
Yeah.
So one of the things that they were talking about in this Royal Commission was people selling products. These financial services companies are selling these products. How horrible is it that they're selling these products? They're taking advantage of people. And I was kind of sitting there going, that's a bit of an absurd thing to say. Like, these financial products
Right.
are designed to help people. Like, if you want to get a mortgage in Australia, houses are pretty expensive. You're probably going to need a financial product called a mortgage.
Yeah.
And someone's probably going to sell it to you, either a mortgage broker or a banker, right? And, I don't know why this sort of mindset was in place around, sales being so horrible, but it really, really stood out to me there. And like, you need people selling things for the world to go around, right? Like, everything kind of stems back to sales. One of the areas that was addressed, not with the Royal Commission, this change actually started happening before the Royal Commission, with life insurance. So the commissions that you used to be able to get on life insurance was roughly like around 100% of the first year's premium. So you'd get that as a commission working as an advisor. That's gone down and down over a number of years, and the commission is now 66% of the annual premium. So what that's led to is pretty much all the advisors that specialize in insurance have left. And a lot of advisors that don't specialize, that will kind of do it as part of their overall process, a lot of them are kind of going, you know what, it's too hard, I'm not going to do it anymore, it's not worth the money, kind of thing, right? And now, because of that, a lot of people don't have insurance that would have had insurance. And these insurances are important. They're high quality insurances, they're good insurances that serve a purpose, and they're in place for a reason. But because of the negative connotations around selling and the fact that there's money tied to it, we've got to pull that back because it's bad that people are selling this for whatever reason. People are now worse off because they're not covered where they should be. So yeah, I think it's just a bit of a cultural thing, and probably ties into the whole tall poppy thing. Like, people in Australia kind of will tear you down if you talk about your success and
Yeah.
getting ahead and everything. And
Because I think you compared it to the US, right, where it's often the profession's quite celebrated.
Definitely.
Why is it different, do you think?
I think it's the American attitude. Like, if you compare that whole tall poppy thing with America, when you're in America, people are talking about their success, about how they're getting ahead, that kind of thing. Compared to Australia, people just don't really talk about it as much. Like, if you're successful,
Yeah.
it's almost like you don't want to tell people because they might treat you
Just rip
differently.
into
Or
it. And,
yeah, exactly.
yeah. And in the US, you get a big pat on the back, and it's all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Everyone's sort of cheering each other on. And I don't know, you probably, in Australia, like some of the listeners to this sort of working in the tech space, probably with the American influence, don't have as
Yeah.
much of an issue with the whole sort of tall poppy thing. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we get to more of a balance. Like, I feel like sometimes the American attitude can be a little bit over the top with the sort of rah-rah kind of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think you want a healthy balance.
Mate, the next post is more, I guess, financial related. And I think you posted about how important, or the importance of diversification in terms of your maybe financial strategy, investing strategy. In sort of investing terms, why is diversification so important, and what does it actually mean?
Yeah, so there's different ways that you can diversify. I'd say the main reason it's important is you're reducing risk by not having all of your eggs in the one basket. It's kind of one of those sayings that most people have probably heard about finance. So you're reducing your risk, but you're also capturing a broader range of opportunities. So the different ways it can diversify is on a security basis. So you could be in different stocks. You can also be in different sectors, different industries, different regions or geographies. and then also outside of that, different asset classes. So I'll explain, what all that means. So let's say, I'll use an example. So let's say you were to invest in Microsoft. You go, look, I want to start investing. I'm just going to buy some Microsoft shares. When you're doing that, you're only in that one security or one stock. So let's say the CEO of Microsoft, probably should know who he is. Don't know who he is, but let's say he has a messy divorce or something, right? So that happens. The stock price tanks. You then lose a lot of money because you're all in on that one stock.
Okay.
So what you could do to diversify on a security or stock basis would be to purchase, say, Netflix and Amazon, and then you've got a couple of different companies to spread that risk. So Microsoft taking a hit there doesn't impact you as much. You've got those other companies that are doing well. And let's say as well, Amazon creates some new service and they take off. You're then capturing more of that upside because you're in more investments. So that's sort of the first level, is on a stock basis. But as well, you're only in the tech sector that way. So the next level would be diversifying the sectors that you're in. So you could then invest in, like, say, Wells Fargo or something like that, a banking company. Then you're now no longer just in tech. If tech takes a hit, you've got the banking sector to outperform. And if the banking sector does well, but tech sort of stays stagnant, you're then capturing that upside. So you've spread that risk and you're capturing more opportunities across a range of sectors. And then to take it the next level, let's say you invest in like BHP and like BP or something like that. So now you're in Australia and you're also in the UK as well. So investing across different regions also allows you to capture more upside and reduce volatility, because you've got different countries performing differently and you're capturing more of that overall return. Then the final level of diversification is across asset classes. So we've really just been talking about shares at this point.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to further diversify, you could invest in things like bonds, fixed interest investments. So what they are is a loan to a government or a company. They want to borrow money, so they will issue these bonds to the market, and you can purchase them. You can basically lend money to different governments and companies. So it could be something like the Victorian government wants to build a new road. They'll issue debt, and you can invest in that. Or it could be like a company like Warner Brothers in the US wants to release a whole heap of new films. They need to issue debt to pay for those films, and you can invest in that kind of thing, right? So they'll just pay you a coupon in return for that, and then they'll pay back the principal that you invest once the bond expires. So those kinds of investments, fixed interest investments, are generally lower returning. They do have lower risk though, so they're a lot more of a smoother return. And typically, not always, like there was about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, it was a bit of a phenomenon where bonds and stocks both took a hit at the one time. But typically, when stocks will drop, bonds and fixed interest investments will generally go up, as a general rule of thumb. So you're sort of spreading that out, and it's more of a smoother return.
So pretty much spread things out, less risk.
Yeah. To simplify it, that's
simply speaking, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That kind of leads me on to maybe the next question I was going to ask you, and this is if you're okay to just give away some advice for free. If there was someone who's listening, maybe they're 25 years old, they've been working for a couple of years, they've got a little bit of disposable income, but not heaps. They've heard the advice to that you should start investing as young as you can, because the younger you do it, the more it compounds over time. But they're not quite sure where to start or what to do. What advice would you give that person?
Yeah, so if they're a young person around that sort of 25 age and they've got a little bit behind them, but not too much, and they're kind of just getting started, I'd say the main thing is just to start investing.
Yeah.
Like, don't sort of overthink it too much.
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, a 5% return isn't as good as a 7% return, but a 5% return is still better than nothing, right? So if you're spending all of your money kind of going, I don't know where to start, I'm not going to worry about investing, you're going to be so much more ahead with that 5% return than nothing. And you're building a good habit as well. So as a sort of easy starting point, there's a few different ways you can invest. There's a lot of like micro investing platforms on the market now. There's sort of a new one every sort of 6 months kind of thing. So you go down that path where you just invest a really small amount. The next sort of level up would be looking at something like an exchange traded fund or a managed fund. So you can invest in those through either the stock market or just buying units in a unit trust. So that's a pretty simple process that does get that level of diversification depending on what you invest in. So you could just look at investing like a young person. If you're sort of putting the money there, you want it there long term. You're not stressed about accessing it in the next couple of years or even the next 5 years kind of thing. You'd probably, as a general rule of thumb, just want to go as high risk as possible if it's for that long term. Because the biggest thing that impacts investment returns, like a lot of people get excited about which specific stock to invest in. They're kind of like analyzing, oh, what company do I invest in? This one's developing this technology. It's going to be so great, blah, blah, blah. Like they kind of get hung up on things like that. Also timing the market. People are like, oh, COVID, it's COVID. I don't know if I should invest. We've got a lot of debt. Interest rates are going up, this and that. They're always trying to time the market. Those things are pretty irrelevant to long-term returns.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that impacts long-term returns is your asset allocation. So how much of those growth assets, like shares and property, you're investing in compared to your defensive assets, like your bonds. Like I've got this chart behind me. I don't know if you can sort of see it, but the top performing investments, US shares and Australian shares. The lowest performing investments are cash and bonds. So over the long run, the easiest way to put yourself in the best position to get ahead is to take risk.
Yeah.
As long as you stay in the market. The biggest thing about taking a lot of risk is you're going to have years where you have big drops, and if you freak out and pull your investment out and put it into cash, you're going to miss the rebound. So you've got to stay invested. So if this young person, I would say, just start investing. Look at some simple options like a ETF or a managed fund, high growth. Stay invested. Don't check it too much. Like you're gonna sort of freak yourself out if you check it every day, kind of thing. But then the other key part I would say for a young person is to definitely look into income protection insurance. It's kind of it's a bit sort of disappointing to see how these changes to the insurance industry have meant a lot of people aren't covered for income protection insurance. This young person, they don't have a lot of money behind them, so they're probably relying on their income. If they were to get sick and they couldn't work, they'd have to find a way to pay the bills. In Australia, like Centrelink and disability payments and everything like that, it's pretty low. It's a pretty low amount. Most people's lifestyle wouldn't actually be met by those kinds of payments. So that safety net generally isn't sort of enough to give you the lifestyle that you want. And having income protection insurance, basically the way that it works is it pays out a monthly benefit, basically like a salary if you can't work because you're sick or injured.
Yeah.
So having that cover there, I'd say, is one of the most important things this person should be looking into. I guess to give you like a bit of an analogy, like pretty much everyone in Australia has insurance on their car. Like let's say your car, like you got like what is a new like Golf R cost or something. Oh, I've got this new Golf R, like it's, what is it, 50 grand or something. Oh, I've got to have insurance. I don't, if I crash that'd be the end of the world kind of thing. Let's say you're earning $200,000 and you've got 30 years left of work. Over those 30 years, you're going to earn $6 million. You probably don't have insurance against that $6 million, but you've got insurance against your new shiny Golf R. So people kind of neglect it and don't realize how valuable they are. Like you want to cover that off because things happen. Like I was sick last year for like about a month and I couldn't work. It does happen. Like it's obviously, most people are fortunate enough to get through life without becoming sick or disabled where they can't work for an extended period. But it does happen. Like you think it's not going to happen to you, but I even had, before I sort of started working with salespeople, back before I got into sales, I had a client that was, I think she was 27. She'd actually worked in financial planning, so knew how important insurance was, and didn't have income protection insurance. And she went on holiday to Thailand and got this like condition that basically gave her like multiple issues. She had like a heart issue, and she had something else. Like it was a while ago now, so I can't remember. But basically, the doctor said to her, "You can actually never work again." So she can never work again at 27. And knows how important this insurance is. She didn't have this insurance and she was in a really rough position. She did have a little bit of other cover, so she kind of had to rely on that, which we sort of helped her through. But yeah, like it's a big risk. Like it's
Crazy.
unlikely, but you do. It's cheap
Yeah.
insurance. It's also tax deductible. So if you're wanting to get some tax deductions, income protection insurance premiums
Mm.
are tax deductible.
Yeah. Really interesting, mate. What about property? How? And I appreciate this is different for everyone. Everyone has different goals and ambitions, but the advice you've given there is mainly around stocks and shares. How front of mind should that 25-year-old be about getting on, getting their first property? Say, we know it's not easy, but what would you say on that front?
Yeah. I think Australia, the Australian financial system's kind of set up to reward people that invest in property. And when you're retired, you probably don't want to be in a rental situation where you've got a landlord telling you what to
Yeah.
do. So I definitely say, think about investing in property for your primary residence as a minimum. So it should definitely be front of mind. There's a few strategies to do it. Like it almost seems like every year the government is talking about a new incentive or a new way to do things. So one of the ones that's been around for a while that people can look into is called the First Home Super Saver Scheme. So this is an option where you actually make more contributions to your super fund for the purpose of purchasing a property. So it has to be your first home. You have to intend to live in it for the first 6 months after you buy it. There's a couple other things, so like definitely seek advice before you jump into it. But basically, the benefit to doing this is when you contribute money to your super fund, the super tax rate is 15% compared to your marginal tax rate. So most people are paying a lot more than 15% tax at their marginal tax rate. It could be 45% kind of thing. So you're getting that tax benefit there by making those contributions to your super fund. So each year, the maximum that you can put in is 15,000. You just need to make sure you're not breaching your concessional contribution caps. So you'd have to have a look into that as well. But that's one little strategy that
Mm.
people can look into that can really help them get ahead. It might save you a few $1,000s a year, kind of thing, if you do it for a few years. So that can be one way to get ahead. It's definitely tough. Like it's especially if you're living in Sydney or something like that. Like I'm
Yeah.
lucky enough to be living in Geelong where things are a bit more affordable. But yeah, it's a big mountain to climb kind of thing. So you definitely want to get started.
Yeah, for sure. Like we've spoken about, what you're doing currently. We've spoken about a little bit about your past and how it's got you to where you are today. What about the future? What are some of your career goals? What do you think, maybe the next couple of years look like for yourself in your career and your business?
Yeah. So this year it's really going to be all about building up the client base more. So definitely after more clients. So if anyone is keen to have a chat and sort of see what I do and see if I can help them,
Mm.
definitely reach out. So keen to build up the client base. Also just build out like my personal brand in the sales space, because I think what I'm doing is pretty unique and very valuable. So I want to get it in front of as many people as possible. So I appreciate you having me on here today to sort of get my name out there. So I want to be doing more stuff like this.
Yeah.
I also want to grow the team. It might sort of
Okay.
be more than, let's say, the next sort of 12 to 18 months. I'm planning on doing like a trip around Australia at the end of the year. So probably after that, it would make sense to look at growing the team. I'm like a big fan of Geelong where I live. I'd love to sort of build out, a local team here, and sort of help the advice industry
Yeah.
grow. Over the last probably 3 or 4 years, the number of registered financial advisors has almost halved. So I'd really like to be part of that process of getting more and more people authorized as advisors and helping more people in the community. So growing the team, building my brand and building my client base is the main focus.
Love it, mate. Awesome. I've got one final closing question for you. This is my typical question at the end. So you can take this whichever way you like, personal, professional, but success to yourself. What does that mean?
Yeah, I'd say it's really about balance, getting everything balanced. People kind of talk about the key key elements to a happy life are health, wealth, and your relationships. So having balance with all of those, like it's sort of, easy to, especially doing your own business, to sort of get caught up on work and everything, and sort of not spend enough time with your friends and partner and family, all that kind of thing. So having that balance there, um, and also doing that for clients, like I think for a lot of the people that I'm working with, part the wealth side of it, just that's lacking. They might be, might have good relationships and might be going to the gym and eating well and things like that, and earning a good income, but yeah, that wealth part is sort of missing. So if I can help with that key component with as many sort of, not as many, I'll obviously get capped out at some point, but
Yeah,
people that work in sales, like I really want to help them. So yeah, help them get that balance.
love it, mate. Darcy O'Rourke, thank you very much for joining me today on the show. Loads of wisdom there, loads of little nuggets. I think personally, I'm going to take away from. I think anyone else that listened to that will do as well. Really love what you're doing, and I think it's definitely a really nice little niche you found there, and I think it's just the start of something. So, mate, all the best for everything, and thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate having me, Joe. Thanks.